Let's talk about the Bank of England and inflation first up, because they've been accused of losing control of inflation, which is a pretty serious charge given that that's literally their job.
That's right, though I'm not sure this is the first time they've been accused of losing control. That much has been clear for some time, but what we have now is a clearer picture of just how bad things are and how bad they may get. We're finding out that the cost of living squeeze could endure for another 10 months, that by next May, typical households will be £2,300 worse off. We know that mortgages are going to be jumping by as much as £500 a month for possibly 1 million households. Yeah. There are hundreds of thousands who could see their repayments go up by £1,000 every month. This is really significant. This is going to sting, and I think people are going to be filled with a complete sense of dread. And what is frustrating is that I have some sympathy with the Bank of England, that they were under immense pressure during the pandemic to print vast sums of money in order to pay for the government's plans, be they furlough or loans going to businesses, ways of supporting the self-employed, and so on and so forth. But what they didn't seem to realise was that this massive increase in the broad supply of money was going to trigger inflation. And, you know, it's fair to say that they were asleep at the wheel. When they did finally start raising interest rates in December 2021, they did so very, very slowly, much slower than compared to, say, the Fed. And they seemed to believe that it was transient for a long time. And now look where we find ourselves, with very sticky, persistently high inflation, 8.7% according to the latest data. And core inflation, when you strip out volatile prices like energy and food, is actually going up. You know, we've completely lost confidence in the Bank of England to address this. Not only do they seem to have their diagnosis of the problem wrong, but they're not administering the right cure. And the problem we have now is that with the latest wage data showing that wages in the year to May 2023 went up 7.3%, there's going to be further pressure on the Bank of England to introduce more interest rate hikes. Already it was quite unexpected that they would raise it to 5% at the last meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee, but they did press ahead with that. And, you know, markets are going to be factoring in possibly interest rates increases of, to 6 or 7%, and that's going to lead to further pain down the line. But the trouble is that we're now in this impossible situation where we have this persistently high inflation, or we tip ourselves into a recession in order to bring it down. It's not a very appealing choice.
No, it really isn't. And I know that you and I would not be probably in favour particularly of more government kind of, economic restraint being put on banks or anything like that. But are the banks sort of taking advantage of this more than they perhaps should? Because presumably all of this extra money that they're going to be charging people every month is going to go to their coffers by and large, isn't it?
I think it's immensely complicated. Certainly there is a case to be made that they are not passing on some of the benefits of interest rate rises to savers in the way that they are punishing mortgage holders for it. And that certainly needs to be scrutinised. And the Chancellor has been meeting with heads of banks to try and thrash this out. Of course, what the government has done is to dismiss demands for some kind of mortgage bailout, and it's absolutely right to do so. For a start, that would be grossly unfair to renters who themselves are often on lower incomes than those who own their own homes. But also, it wouldn't be addressing the problem. If you want to bring down demand in the economy by raising interest rates, then you do not at the same time cushion people from the impact of raising those interest rates. The whole point is that this needs to hurt. It's extremely unfortunate. I think the situation was avoidable. We didn't need such a massive increase in the supply of money during the coronavirus pandemic. A lot of those support schemes, particularly furlough, went on for much longer than they needed to. There were real problems that were made. But this simply is not the best way of addressing them.